You guys, in pursuit of learning more about the Netrunner aspect, okay? The chip is extremely difficult to crack, and again, they're asking for $2 million in order to crack it. If you go to the Green Roach, after some time, maybe greasing the wheels with a couple high quality drinks and rolling a skill check or two, effectively what you're going to find is that there was a netrunner the other night who was found shot dead. His name is Tom Fields. No one really knew what his net alias was or why he was killed, but they know that he was killed because the police pulled his body out in the morning. If you guys were to follow that lead, you would be able to find his address, and his address is about a 30-minute drive from the flat. If you were to explore his address, you'd find that it basically was trashed. It was rubble strewn about. The apartment is on the second floor. It's dark, deserted. The moment that you would approach it, the door would swing open. The lock had been broken, and nobody should be through there since the police collected the body. But a cheap cyber modem would be on the floor amongst a pile of the books. The tech person in the group would see that second scanning through the deck on the floor would have bunch of the chips that were in there are there, but one of them had been removed, damaging the connections. With a proper intelligence check, you'd find that the storage module was probably in that fifth slot and used to download some data from the net. Okay? It's basically an indication that this netrunner was involved with the computer chip. Okay. You guys are also going to find that an unknown Asian male has been living it up around town the last few days. He seems heavily cybered and has a very healthy credit balance. Again, an unknown Asian male. The last thing that you guys would find, right? The last thing that you guys would find is an electronics tech, and this would be something that Aronan and I would actually find out because he would be familiar with this electronics tech named Gary Ottman.
He knows Gary. Gary.
Hey, Gary.
So, again, Gary Ottman has been spending big money when he typically has very little.
Typical Gary. Classic Gary.
If you take a harder look at Gary, if you were to go and talk to him, the guy lives upstairs of a textile store, one that Nenai frequents. It's guarded by an impressive collection of electronics, and he also has 2 heavy bodyguards with him at all times. So he's not easy to attack, but you guys would show up and basically learn from Gary that that a gentleman came in to his shop the other night and had this chip. Basically, he would indicate that this guy comes in acting real weird. Thought this guy was some kind of super spy or something. Well, anyway, he comes in the other night real late, just before close, and the guy offers me $50,000 to burn a chip, no questions asked. And I thought he was crazy until he brought the cash out. So he goes on about needing this data module dumped onto the chip and wants it encoded so it can't be read. All of this within 1 hour. Well, with that kind of money, I dumped it into a real high density chip I picked up from Maz a month back and encoded it like he wants. And then he asked me real nice, asked me forget it all. And the guy just leaves. So if you guys were to pull out the chip or I describe the chip, he'd be like, yeah, I know that what that code was, but I can't get everything away. And with a little more bribery, a little buddy talk, a little persuasion, if you guys were to press him, you'd learn that it looked like the type of code one of them orbital types use. He says he checks up on it later after the guy left, and it was an old ESA code. Whatever he had, it was going to ESA. ESA is the European Space Administration. So there's a number of things here. Oh, and by the way, the person that he describes the nervous man. He describes the guy that you guys saw in the bar. So the way it plays out is the nervous man went to Gary, asked him to copy this thing and encode it. Gary does so. The netrunner, Tom Fields, is insinuated to have been hired by the nervous man to hack the information off of the web and then later ended up dead. The nervous man then approached Gary to encode the information. Gary did so. Gary believes that the information was going to the ESA. NASA sent the goons after the nervous man to get the information back. So you guys are starting to formulate that whatever's on that chip has to do with aerospace, NASA, European Space Agency, that sort of thing. Now, as you guys are out and about trying to find this information, trying to gather all of these clues, it takes quite some time for you guys to kind of get it all together. And at some point, as you guys are all out of the apartment, okay, this is the last scene that we'll go through and we'll leave you with. So the party has all of you guys have been out of the apartment. You've been searching for information and maybe grabbing a bite to eat in the evening after you guys go down to the restaurant, get something to eat, sick of kibble, sick of pre-pack, get a little bit of restaurant food now that you have a little bit of money in your pocket. And upon returning home to the apartment, you find that the power is back on. You don't have to use the bypass on the door. The lift and doors all work fine. You take the elevator to the top, to the 19th floor, and you walk down the hallway and enter your apartment. Sarah, as you enter the apartment, you find in front of you an Asian male reclining comfortably in your only armchair. Although he smiles pleasantly, his overall bearing is one of concealed menace, and to be honest, a chill runs up your spine at his apparent lack of concern at seeing you and the rest of the party enter the room. He has no obvious signs of weaponry, and he's sitting as though he should be here.
Okay.
As your party enters the room, he smiles and in stilted English says to you, "I have a message for you. It is very important. You see, you have something which belongs to my employer. I have been advised not to attempt to take it from you. It appears I am too well known. But it is in your best interest to deliver for me, because you will be given 100,000 euro each on delivery. Complete the task the man you took this package from was set out to do. This envelope contains the time and place and other necessary items for the drop." And with that, he leans forward and places an envelope on the table. He continues, "Please cooperate. Otherwise, we will become very unfriendly." And he smiles again. "I will see myself out." And with that, he turns and quickly disappears out the window and onto the fire escape. You run over to the fire escape and he's already gone, having gone up or down, you don't know, possibly into another room. But before you can do anything, he basically has disappeared in front of you. So with that encounter, he had dropped the envelope on the table and left.
What's in this envelope?
Glad you asked.
Sarah snatches up the envelope and tears it open.
The envelope is now in your handouts.
Oh, hell.
This bullshit. How am I supposed to take my bike?
And with that, we will cut it for the evening.
Alright.
That was,
Or morning, as it were.
yeah, it's,
6 in the morning.
6:20.
yeah. That was a fair session. But yeah, it was awesome.
Well, sorry we had to kind of truncate it a little bit towards the end there. It can run a little long and trying to run everybody through their individual pursuits and checks and whatnot.
Yeah, we don't mind.
I think everybody did really well.
I don't even know what the fuck I was doing.
Just bumblefuck your way through it. That's how you do it.
That's right. And learn a little bit as you go each time. So, like I said, with that, I mean, if you guys would like, we can schedule a part 2. There is We're probably right about halfway through of all the stuff that you guys have to work through. We can certainly coordinate. Yeah, 4 parts. You guys got through parts 1 and 2. Oh no, a 5th part. So a little bit less than halfway through.
Nice.
You're set up perfectly for the next session, really, to move out of your apartment that you've been in and pursue this job. You've had a carrot dangled in front of you, worth 100,000 per person to fulfill the task that is at hand. So if that's not a bit of a dangled carrot, I don't know what you guys would consider one. But the next time, if you guys want to wrap this up, we'll start with you basically preparing to um, depart for Mojave Field Port. That is in Mojave, California. It is a spaceport that connects to the Johnson Space Platform, which then is suborbital. And then from the Johnson Space Platform, you would take a shuttle to the orbital air Crystal Palace orbital station. The only issue is that there's no direct connection from Night City. You guys will have to go from Night City International Airport to Los Angeles International Airport to Mojave. So layovers or a connecting flight through LAX to Mojave, where you would get on the space plane to go into suborbit, where you'd meet up at the Johnson Space Platform and then go from suborbit into orbit. So kind of a 3-part stage there. And once you guys are on Flight 19 going from Mojave to the Johnson Space Station, again, you're leaving terra firma, so not your typical cyberpunk adventure where you just basically run the streets of Night City, but actually leaving Earth and going into orbit.